Oh, okay.
Hi, this is Steve Draper in my workshop in Bellevue. This is the Shopsmith Mark 47520 self-study course, assignment 1-4, Edge Rabbets. Now, in your last assignment, you did 3 grooves, just like this. If we take and move the groove all the way over to the edge of a board, then it's called a rabbet, spelled R-A-B-B-E-T. And you should have your 3 pieces of board marked here. Your instructions in there tell you how to do that. Of course, number 1, you want marked like this. Number 1, edge, rabbet, and butt joint. Make sure the word rabbet is underlined, and then underneath that edge, lap joint. For number 2, you want it like this. Number 2, and then on this edge, you want to have an edge, rabbet, and groove joint with the word groove underlined. On this side, edge, rabbet, and butt joint, make sure the word butt is underlined. And for number 3, we've got number 3, edge, rabbet, and groove joint, make sure the word rabbet is underlined. And on this one, edge, lap joint. And of course, these are all pieces of 1x6, 12 inches long, just like your instructions showed you. Now, when we do a rabbet, I've got one here. This is a simple rabbet right here. You see this forms an L here on the edge of the fence here, and that is a simple edge rabbet right there. If we do it with the grain, then we call it an edge rabbet. If we do it across grain, then it's called an end rabbet, which we'll do that later in lesson 2 on the cross-cutting operations. So for your setup, you want to make sure you have your machine set up here, like you see me having it here, with your table here and your fence. You need to make sure that you have this 24-inch long piece of 1x6 stock, and I've got it clamped to the fence here, 1/2 inch above the table. And you can use whatever method. You can use a ruler or whatever you want to do. Make sure that it's a 1/2 inch above the table. Of course, you want to make sure you have that your push block here. I'm going to pull out your instructions here, the written assignment that goes with it, so you can follow along with me. The tape measure or flat ruler. I like to use a flat ruler. We've got our stock. We've got our 2 clamps. You may need a combination square to do the height on the blade, and then also an optional 0 clearance insert. Your regular table insert looks like this, with the wider slot in here. The 0 clearance insert looks like this. It's just wide enough for the width of the blade itself. So I'm using the 0 clearance insert on mine today, but you can do yours with the one that comes with your machine when it's new if you want to. And then lastly, the non-through cut riving knife. Because we're not cutting all the way through the wood, we can't put the upper saw guard on here and riving knife, but Shopsmith sells a non-through cut riving knife that looks just like this, and it fits down in that same slot where the upper saw guard would go. I'm going to lower this a little easier for you to see. That just fits right down in the same slot where the upper saw guard with riving knife would go, except I have got that dropped down in there incorrectly. Pull that back out. Here we go. I'm going to move my fence away here so I can get to it a little easier. There we go. And that'll be right in line with your blade itself. And the reason why we have that there, if it's available to you, is it helps to keep kickbacks from happening. When you're pushing stock through, if for some reason you accidentally move this end away from the fence, then that's when kickbacks happen. And that's what this non-through cut riving knife does, is it will keep that from moving away from the fence, so these won't have less likely to have kickbacks happen. Okay, so on your examples, we're going to be making a simple rabbet today. That's this first one that I showed you here. And that will be so that a piece of 3/16 hardboard can fit right into that. And just like you see right there. And often you'll see that on cabinets. The back of the cabinet will fit into a rabbet right on the side of the cabinet like that. That's where you'll see that quite often. And then we'll do, after that, you're going to do an edge rabbet and butt joint. And that's where we have a rabbet here that's a little bit bigger. And that's going to fit right into the edge of a regular piece of stock, just like that. And that's your edge rabbet and butt joint. And then we'll do an edge rabbet and groove joint. And that's where we have a groove here. And we have a rabbet that's going to fit right into there, this piece here. And it will lock right in there just like that. That is your edge rabbet and groove joint. And lastly, we'll do a lap joint, which is just two wider rabbets so that the stock can fit together here. Let's find the right one. See this one right here. So that could fit together just like that. So that's your lap joint. So those are the joints you do in this particular lesson. Now in the next segment, I'll be showing you how to set up and do the simple rabbet. Now we're going to do the setup for a simple rabbet. And the rabbet we want to do is one for this board here to fit right in the edge like I showed you earlier. And I've got some setup tools here. I want to show you some options that are available to you. This is not in the written assignment, but it's some nice to know information that you might appreciate. Of course, this is what we're going to do. We want this to fit right into here. So some key setup things on this is, first of all, we want to make sure that we've got our magnetic ruler zeroed out correctly. And to zero out that correctly, that's what this board here is for. I'm going to show you that here in just a second, how to zero that out. But before we do that, I want to go over a couple measurement things for you. For all of these cuts here, we want to make sure that we have the depth of cut dialed in correctly. We want that to be that fairly close to 3/8, but it's not going to be exact because that's going to depend upon the thickness of your stock. Now, for example, I've taken this stock I purchased at the big box store. It's a 1x stock, which is supposed to be 3/4 inch thickness, but it'll never be exactly 3/4 when you get it from one of the lumber stores. So on this one here, I've got some digital calipers here, and I've measuring here what this says. And this says for measurement 0.74 inches, which is 100th shy of 3/4 of an inch. So it's not exactly 3/4 of an inch. What we want to have is we want to have our depth to be exactly half the thickness of this stock. An easy way to do that is I've marked a line here on the center of the stock. Now, how did I do that? I started with a combination square. I set that for 3/8, just shy of 3/8. And I held it on here, except I don't have it set at 3/8. Here we go. Okay, that's about, okay, right there. That's just shy of 3/8. When I hold this up, it's covering up that line. So I need to back it off just a little bit. Now you can see the line there, okay? If I do it from the other side, opposite side, it should get to the same result if I've centered it. And there it is, see? So now that I know that this is exactly in the center of the stock, I can come over here, set my stock. Actually, if you bring the camera around here to the end here and get an end view, they're going to get a better view of this. And you see here, I've got my blade there. The very tip of that blade is just touching on that line. So now I know that this depth of cut is exactly right. Now, so this is just a good pointer for you. This is how you'll really dial in it exactly. Short of that, if you have your ruler here, when we do that, that's going to measure fairly close to 3/8. Another device, this is a height jig set for 3/8. And I can set it up that way also, but really what I showed you the board is really going to dial it in exactly. And the reason we want to do that is because when we're done and we have this later on when we do the lap joint, if that depth is not dialed in exactly, what will happen is, here's on this lap joint, while they sit flush here this way, up and down, I can feel that it's not exactly perfectly flush. So that's what that'll affect there. So we want to just dial it in best we can from the start. If you don't get it exactly, don't fret over it. This is just a learning experience. I want you to learn how to do the basics of doing these cuts. All right. So now let's get on to setting up this board here and why we do that. We'll pull these things away. So I'm going to lower this down now, and we're going to move the fence over until the board just kisses the edge of that blade. And then we'll lock that down. Yep, it's just kissing. Now I will set my 0 on the, you don't need to get a close-up of this though. They've seen that earlier on an earlier video. We're going to set the pointer on the right side of the rip fence. You probably won't be able to see the one on the left side because of this clamp being here. So we'll set the one on the right side to 0 for this one. There we are. Now we'll back that off and we'll go back and do our depth. Get that in, right. And I'm going to use the mark on the edge of the board again like I did before. Get that right in perfectly. Let's see how I'm doing there. Yep, there we are. Okay, so now we got our depth. Now the last thing we're going to set is the distance from here to the blade. So when we're done, we want to have this side of the blade over here being flush with the thickness of this on this side. Well, this is 5/32. Our blade thickness is 3/32. So if we set our fence right on 1/16 of an inch, that should line up. So I'm going to set that there at 1/16 of an inch. Yeah, that's 1/16 of an inch there. Lock that down. Now if I double check with this, no, something's wrong. Let's not have this set up correctly. Let's try this again. Okay, there's 0. Oh, I know what I did. I did 1/8 of an inch. Okay, there's a 16th right there. All right, let's try that. Okay, there. Yep, I can feel the edge of that blade is right flush with this board. So that's what I want. Okay, and lastly, this board you want to have a 1/2 inch above the table. You don't want the board to be down so the blade cuts into it. And you can do that with your straight edge. That doesn't have to be exact. Approximately 1/2 inch. Just make sure on each end. I have a little spacer here that works great. I just set it right on there and set the board right on there, and I've got right my 1/2 inch. So that's another way to do it. Okay, so now that we're set up, we can cut that first L, or simple rabbet. And I've got another clean piece of stock. What we're going to do, we'll run that past the blade, and then we will move the fence a 1/16 of an inch this way, closer, and then that will clean it out. All right, so let's go through our 7-step safety check. First thing we'll do, we'll check our motor lock, our quill lock, our trunnion lock, carriage lock, table height lock. Nothing on the spindles here. We're using the non-through cut riving knife instead of the upper saw guard. The machine is firmly on the floor with the wheels up. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my safety glasses. I've got my hearing protection here. I'm going to turn on the power to my machine. I've already got my dust collection hooked up. All right, doing on table saw, 10-inch blade, softwood, general sawing. That comes up 3550 RPM. Turn on my dust collection, we'll do this. Make sure you use your push block on this. I'm just going to move this fence over about a 1/16 of an inch. Maybe a hair more. And we'll clean that out. That's what it looks like right now. So there's our simple L right there. Okay, in our next segment, we'll do an end rabbet and butt joint. So now we're going to do the end rabbet and butt joint. I'm also going to do the lap joint at the same time because the setup is almost identical. So what we want to do for this setup here is we want to create just a wider rabbet here than what we did just previously. And all that's done is by having the fence adjusted. And to get your fence adjusted correctly, you want to have, just like we did on that piece of hardboard, we want to have it set up so that the edge of the thickness of your stock is flush with the left side of the blade here. And there it is right there. I can feel it with my finger. It's flush there. And that gets our distance between the blade and the fence perfectly set up. Our depth doesn't change whatsoever. So I'm not going to do the actual cuts here. I'm showing you the setup of how to do that. So when we do when you do the cuts for this one, you're going to use this edge here. Number 1 says edge rabbet and butt joint with the word rabbet underlined. You'll run that through. That gets us right up to here. And then you'll just move your fence over about a 1/16 inch at a time, doing it through until you clean that one out. And that will get you the edge rabbet and butt joint. And that should fit perfectly when you're done, right next to this one, where the butt is underlined. That should fit exactly together, just like that. Now, to do the lap joint, this says edge rabbet butt joint is also one of the pieces that'll go for the lap joint. So all you'll do to get that lap joint is you'll take this one here, it says add your lap joint, and you'll put the same identical cut on this one as you did on the one I just showed you. And then those two, where it says edge lap and a lap joint, then those will fit together just like that. All right. So in the next segment, I'm going to show you how to do the setup for the edge rabbet and the groove joint. Now for the edge rabbet and the groove joint, now your written manual shows cutting the edge rabbet first and then doing the groove afterwards. And the reason we do that is that we want, after this rabbet is cut, we want then the groove to exactly match what that is. And so that's why the instructions are in that order. I'm going to add one thing here in the video that just makes it a little bit easier. Since we already have this set up perfectly for here, what I'm going to suggest here is before we cut this edge rabbet, run one time through for the groove, because then that will get us the perfect placement of the groove, proper distance away from here, that edge, that part of it accomplished, and then we'll fine tune that after we cut this one. So all you have to do, it's already set up, just run that through one time, and now we'll switch over to doing the edge rabbet that we want to do. Now here, we want this to be 3/8 of an inch from here to this side of the blade, and that you'll just use your straight edge to set that up for that. I'll just move this over until the left side of the blade is it 3/8 optimally. Yep, there we go. That looks like 3/8 right there. Yep, 1, 2, 3. All right. And once we get that set up, then we're going to do the edge rabbet part of it, which is this one. And you'll run that through and then move the fence over 1/16 of an inch at a time if you've got that all cleaned out. And then once that is done, then we'll go back to the groove part of it right here. And if you look up here, I'm just going to adjust the fence. You get a close-up on this. You would have had that first cut that you already made, which should be on this edge of the right here. Then you'll just move that fence in about 1/16 of an inch, run it through, then do another 1/16, run it through. And when you get about this point, then you want to start testing each time to see if this edge rabbet here is going to fit in there. So you'll dial that in. Initially, you'll try it out, and it won't fit because it won't be wide enough yet. And you'll just keep moving this a little bit until you get it to fit in there exactly. And when you're done, they're going to fit together just like that. So that's the end of this assignment where we've done a simple rabbet, the edge rabbet butt joint, edge rabbet groove joint, and a lot of joy. We'll see you on the next one.